Good morning, good morning, dear African youth. This message is for you. If you are a writer, public speaker, and I'm the convener of Open Nigeria and Africa Unite. I grew up being told that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. And up to this date, we keep on hearing that rhetoric. In Africa, the youths are never the leaders of tomorrow. So we must get away from that mentality. We have to take the leadership of Africa. Take. Nobody gives it to you for free. Africa is in chains. Africans are in chains. And we have been in this chain for a very long time. 1,100 years ago, yes, for 1,100 years, the people of Africa have been in chains. Generations of Africans have been chained. It is time to break the chain. And who are those with the energy to break these chains? The youths. Any continent that toys with its youths is burying its future alive. Sadly, that has been the case of Africa. Now is the moment to turn the tide. I am not a youth. I'm a 61-year-old person. But I love young people. We must set aside the fantasies of the 21st century. We must use the tools of the 21st century to design a new course for Africa and the African people. Those who struggled for the liberation of Africa to the extent of being independent, they were very, very patriotic people. And I call Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure, Modibo Keita, Emperor Haile Selassie, Jomo Kenyatta, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, Abdel Nasser, and the rest of them. They were very, very patriotic. When I mean patriotic, they wanted the best for their continent. They fought with their blood. They put everything on the line to fight for the liberation of Africa. Yes, from one country to the other, you saw, or from those who read history, because sadly our young people don't read history anymore. But it's now time for you to go and read history. How many of you, the young people of Africa, have read anything about Marcus Garvey? Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica. He was a child of slaves who were transported from Africa to North America. But that African spirit in him kept on quaking. He decided to take action. He did not have a cell phone. He did not have a TikTok account. He did not have Facebook. He did not have Instagram. He did not have WhatsApp. He did not have nothing. Not even a telephone landline. With that, all those disabilities, he was able to build a 6 million strong African movement. Yes, he was born on August 17, 1887. Marcus Garvey, go and research it. He inspired what led to the liberation struggle to the extent of independence of most African states. Marcus Garvey from over 10,000 miles. That is the creative ingenuity of men. Rare people make those type of histories. Now, you and I have access to Instagram. You are talking to me, you are watching me in real time using TikTok. You have WhatsApp. You have Facebook. You have all these things. Why are we not using them to the best advantage? Why are we not using them? What are we using with our Instagram, with all that we see taking place? With all that we see taking place, insecurity in Nigeria, Boko Haram has taken over Nigeria. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso have been under assault by bandits and terrorists. The whole of Africa, Somalia, has been without a government for nearly 40 years. But Africa has nearly 50% of the earth's resources. Yes. And yet, each 1.4 billion people are the poorest people on the surface of this earth. Isn't it enough for us to begin to ask questions? What built Washington? What built London? What built Lisbon? What built Madrid? What built Paris? All of them came from Africa. Yes, authoritatively. 5 historic events: slavery, colonialism, imperialism, now apartheid, and now globalization. All of all Africans, Africa has been the victim. In 1884, some people sat in Germany, Berlin Conference in Germany, where some people came together because their industrial revolution became a global emergency that required African slaves, required African raw materials, and required African cheap labor. They came, drew a map, balkanized the continent, and then went on the offensive. They lied to us about God that we know before them. They told us to be looking up. They gave us a Bible, gave us Quran. We are looking up, and they are digging minerals from under our foot. They were surveying our lands. They came as missionaries in the name of Jesus. Jesus that is our story. Jesus that we knew well before they came. They came, created a brand new Jesus, put economics and politics behind it, politics and finance behind it. They robbed our ancestors. And the robbery became generational. Their children have been robbing us because of the tragedy of leadership in our continent. Like I said, the first line, those who fought for the liberation of Africa, they were all total patriots. But what did they do? And that these men, young as they were at the time, they saw a vision over 70 years ago about the necessity for the unification of Africa as one big country with one economy, one reserve bank, and one military. Because they saw today, about 70 years ago, they saw what is happening right now, about 70 years ago, because they were all visionaries. Now the imperialists saw the effects on them that will be occasioned by the unification of Africa. They started executing them one by one. They started with Patrice Lumumba in Congo, destroyed him, not only killed him. You know what they did to him? If you studied chemistry, you know what they call sulfuric acid. After they killed him, they put his body inside the sulfuric acid to make sure that he was completely dissolved. You think the people who did that to you will be your best friend? That you will rely on to tomorrow? They tell you about developing Africa. They want to develop. No. How will they develop Africa without your input, without your own consent? It's not going to happen. Every time African leaders will be going cap in hand, little boy like Macron, we call them, you see all of them falling over their bodies, running to Paris to sit down. What is the size of France? What is the size of France? France is not the size of 2 states in Nigeria. Yes. What intelligence do they have? You know, when we come here, we're in the same class with them. They don't see our backs. But you know what? They are building on the colonial legacy. Yes, the oppressive legacies that their forefathers left behind for them. Yes, that is all they have. Everything they have was what was stolen from Africa. It's most insulting and exceptionally disrespectful to hear Europeans coming to say they want to help Africa. A country as small as Belgium, that is not even the size of my hometown, will come and will be wanting to help Africa. Help Africa with what? With what was stolen from Africa. They build corporations that come here to create confusion, create disease for us, exploit and destroy our soil, and then we pay for it. They instigate strifes and wars across our continents because of the foolishness of the type of leadership that you and I help prop up. Because when we are asked to vote, especially in Nigeria, I know very much about Nigeria. Nigerians sell their votes to criminals. Criminals who don't know anything. Criminals without brains, like we have right now. Yes, who cannot stand up and look at the white man in his face. A little boy white man in the face like Macron. Yes, African leaders cannot look at him in the face and sit down and tell him, we own your lifeline and we can cut it off. You know, when Africa cuts off its lifeline to Europe, Europe will crash. And that is what must happen. But we are not going to cut off their lifeline. We want a responsible leadership that can tell them that we drive your economies and you must treat us with respect. All right? We are looking for that leaders, those type of leaders. And that is why I'm calling on South Africans. South Africans, South Africans, South Africans. Don't misuse the opportunity you have. In Julius Malema, as you go to polls this year, make sure, I am begging you, I lived in South Africa for 2 years, between 1994 and 1996. South Africans, do not blow up an opportunity that is knocking at your door. That opportunity can be the springboard your country will need to lead Africa. Nigeria is out of it right now. Nigeria, through a criminal, cannot be the one leading Africa right now. But we have a revolutionary aspiring to be the president of South Africa. The worst the South African people would do is to not make that guy become the next leader of South Africa. After the disaster that started with Jacob Zuma, extending into Ramaphosa, we cannot afford to continue on that trajectory. We want an assertive African leadership. We want an African leadership that will look at the children of Africa and ask them, what do you need? And they will tell him, we need development. We need an Africa that is truly independent. An Africa that can build a financial institution of its own. An Africa that come together to decisively solve its problem, like we have Boko Haram in Nigeria. If Africa had a standing army, Africa was the United States of Africa that our ancestors envisioned. Who is that Arab coming to sponsor Boko Haram in our country? Who is France that is actually created and supports Boko Haram in Nigeria that we cannot decisively deal with? Hey, thumbs up for Captain Ibrahim Traore and his Malian and Nigerian counterparts for what they are doing. And I'm hoping that we will get it. So young Africans, wherever you are in Africa, remember that you have basic human rights in addition to your right to the citizenship of your various countries. Stand up and be counted. Stand up and start choosing the type of leadership with a vision for the unification of Africa, with the abilities, the competency, and the exceptional content of character required to build, utilize, expand, extend, and sustain capacity beyond themselves for the good of your countries and the overall good of Africa. That is what we need right now. Right now. Right now. Now is the time, not tomorrow. I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm talking Africa, unite now and not tomorrow. And the unity of Africa is in the hands of the young people of Africa. Nobody can do it but you. Europeans cannot do it. Americans will never come and do it for you.